You're listening to the Common Fan Podcast, a Husker football podcast for the common fan, by the common fan.
Welcome back to the Common Fan Podcast. I am TJ Burkle, as always, alongside Matty Owens Sr. and Geoff in Lincoln. We got a fun pre-spring ball episode for you today as the Huskers are about to kick off spring ball this very week. First, get to the Common Fan website, www.commonfan.co. Sign up for the free newsletter, subscribe on YouTube, follow all the social media accounts, and generally, you can listen to all the episodes on the website if you want to. You can watch all the episodes. You can generally keep up with all the fun and frivolity of the Common Fans. That's commonfan.co. It costs you nothing but a little bit.
And
of
a
time.
one-stop shop. Just a one-stop shop. You can do it. Get all your Common Fan kicks on that website.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. We're getting into spring ball. The season will be here before you know it. Get on it. Get on it.
Yeah.
Fans.
Do it.
I can even do it. I'm not very good with technology, as you guys know.
Except
I've navigated that website. By the way, there's video games going on in the background right now, just so you know. So if you hear anything loud, I apologize in advance right now.
Okay.
Jeff's
hardcore Zelda going on.
Jeff's a 65-year-old in a 42-year-old's body when it comes to technology, except for video games.
Yep.
Also subscribe on YouTube. Common Fans. We recently broke the 1,000 subscriber barrier.
Yes.
We're very excited about that. Very excited about that. We're only going up from there. But everybody subscribe on YouTube, another way to keep up with all of the Common Fan activities. Check out cpbeef.com, certified Piedmontese, Nebraska beef raised and grazed in the beautiful Sand Hills region of the States by Nebraska farmers and ranchers. It's delicious. It's the best beef you can get anywhere. Great steaks, great ribs, great roasts, ground beef, bacon, all the things you could want. And you can use the promo code COMMONFAN, all one word, COMMONFAN, at cpbeef.com to get 25% off your order. 25% off anything that's not already discounted on the site. And they'll ship to your front door anywhere across all 50 states. So check out cpbeef.com. Use the promo code COMMONFAN. Guys, let's get right to it. Let's get right to the episode. Today, we're going to look at 5 Nebraska football players poised to break out in 2025. This is an exciting episode. Now, let's lay the ground rules here. One of the rules was no Dylan Raiola. You could argue, Jeff wanted to do Dylan. You could argue that Dylan broke out in 2024 already. You could argue he's poised to find a whole nother level in 2025, and that might be a breakout. But we're going to talk about Dylan so much for as long as he's at Nebraska. And I would argue he's already established himself as the starting QB, so that you're not poised for a breakout if you've already broken out. So anyway, we decided to do 5 players other than Dylan. And then the other thing is, a lot of times when we do these lists, each Common Fan picks 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever the number is. Today, we did put our heads together in advance, and we settled on 5 players with a few extra honorable mentions if we have time. But we settled on one core group of players that we're each just going to talk about, because 15 breakout players felt like a lot and probably unrealistic. I think we can hope for 5 players to break out, right?
Yeah.
I think that's reasonable. 15.
We're capable of being reasonable occasionally.
From time to time.
Yeah, in the realm of reality. Yeah, if we have 15, we're definitely going to we're definitely going to the national championship.
Yeah.
So
we're going
with 5.
Book the flight. Book the flight,
Yeah.
baby.
Well, it's another Sunday morning coffee talk too. We were recording this on Sunday. It'll be out Monday morning. I'm kind of getting used to this, guys. I don't mind spending my Sunday morning.
I don't mind it. Yeah.
Oh, are you?
A little coffee.
Getting used to that?
Wait, you don't like it, Jeff?
Oh, Jeff
I don't mind it. I love coffee. Coffee's good.
All right, let's jump right in, guys.
People.
The number 1 player that we identified as a breakout candidate, and some Common Fans might even think this is stretching a little bit simply because of the way he ended the season. It's expected starting running back Emmitt Johnson. Common Fan, why'd you look like that, Mario? Fan listeners Tech issues?
Yeah, I feel like I was bouncing on my camera.
Okay.
Sorry.
Regular Common Fan listeners know we said Emmett going into the 2024 season was the best back on the roster. I would argue by the end of the season, he proved that to be true. Best all-around back. Common Fan listeners know we are super high on Emmitt Johnson. But guys, part of the reason I thought it made sense to put him on this list is because he was huge against UTEP in the opener, and then he disappeared against Colorado. Yeah. And I felt like that happened about 4 times where it'd be like, okay, Emmett's back, and they're finally going to use him as a regular back. And then he'd get 3 carries the next game or whatever. And it wasn't until the very end of the season, which I'll talk about in a minute, until he really established himself as kind of the go-to guy. But just kind of weird. I thought the running back usage last year was weird overall, but what do you guys think about
I'm just so sick of, I mean, and maybe it's just the old school part of me. I'm so sick of running back by committee. I just why? You don't have one, you don't have, I mean, to me, it's a case of you don't have a guy, the guy. So then it's okay, well, we can have him do these little things that he's good at. And we can have him do this. And maybe it's a case of there's not that many running backs that can do all the things you need. But it used to be you'd have a workhorse.
Yep.
Right? Most teams. Unless you're air raid, throwing it 50 times a game. So I'm all for establishing a guy, the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And Nebraska, for whatever reason, hasn't done that for 10 years. Zigbo is probably the closest thing we had to a guy. Other than that, it just seems like it's always been, nobody got 20 carries a game. That was unheard of. So I'd like to see that. And even if it's not 20 carries, 15 carries and 5 catches or something like that. But we need to get Emmett involved and in a rhythm. So I would love to see him get 20, 25 touches. I don't know if we need to get to the 30 range, but 20 to 25 I think is attainable and reasonable for a guy that I think can consistently get us at least 4 or 5 yards every time he touches the ball. But he just hasn't had the opportunity for whatever reason.
Yeah, I would like to see him break out just because I'm really digging this Emmett Brown shtick that we got going on the last podcast. I want that to continue. Same. So the more that he's involved in the football game, I feel like I can quote more and more Back to the Future scenes. If he busts a big run, I want to bust out 88 miles per hour. If he jukes somebody out of their shoes, 1.21 gigawatts. I want to quote a lot of these things. So damn it, Emmett, do a good job this year. We want you to break out because we're all Back to the Future fans and we want to keep quoting that movie.
Yeah, for those of you younger Common fans, or for those of you who aren't super hardcore Back to the Future fans, the famous Doc Brown, the fictional character, his real name in the movie was Emmett L. Brown, Dr. Emmett L. Brown. And we I think Jeff accidentally called Emmitt Johnson Emmett Brown on the last episode, and it completely, it's become a thing now. So yeah, Emmett Brown, 1.21 gigabytes. So here, guys, I looked at, and I love that, Jeff, and that's a total Geoff and Lincoln
that is a very common
comment right there.
Very common fan thing.
Yeah. Yep. Here's what I looked at some numbers this morning, guys. It was really interesting. So on the year, Emmett had 117 carries for 598 rushing yards. He had 39 receptions for 286 receiving yards. He had 3 touchdowns on the year. Dana Holgorsen arrived 9 games in. So after Holgorsen arrived, we had 3 more regular season games and 1 bowl game, right?
I see what you're doing here. I like it.
In the 4 games after Holgorsen arrived, Emmett had 314 of his 598 rush yards. That's 52.5% right there. Wow. He had 170 of his 286 receiving yards. That's 59% of his receiving yards after Holgorsen arrived. And 23 of his 39 receptions, which is almost 59% as well, were in the last 4 games. 2 of his 3 touchdowns were in those last 4 games. So we all saw it, right? We saw his role really take off after Holgorsen arrived. And I am so excited to see what he can do with a full year a full offseason with Holgorsen. Mm-hmm. Holgorsen probably knows his name by now instead of just his number. And the full season is the featured back. I think he will be that guy that you're talking about, Matty. I think he will be the featured back. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I think he will have the best season of a Nebraska running back, at least since Amir Abdullah in 2014, when there was Heisman hype
And that's
around.
that's a really good season. Yeah.
That's right.
Look at you with those numbers. Good Lord. I like those numbers.
You love the numbers, Jeff. You always love the numbers.
Percentages, coaches leaving, coaches arriving, but if we get the technology, TJ, you're going to be like that guy on MSNBC with like the board. Who is that guy that is during like election time? Like up there, like if we go over here and we look at
election guy.
If we go to Emmett Johnson here, we go here. Coach leaves and then he runs for this amount of yardage here. That's going to be you if we get the technology. You're going to be all over that board if we have that up in the background.
All right, love it. Any other thoughts on Emmitt Johnson?
Just really excited to see him with Dana. And I think when the whole I think Dana really wants Emmitt because the whole thing Emmitt was going to leave like very briefly. He was going to enter the portal. Yeah. And then it was like it was kind of short-lived. So you know that like the OC that's returning Dana like has a little bit of a hand in that. Like I'm sure he said, I want this kid. So I'm just really excited to see him in Dana's offense.
Yeah, that's absolutely awesome.
In the Midwest Coast offense.
Yes.
All right. Yep. All right. Number 2, possibly not totally fair to the kid. We only did this with one of these players, the true freshman. Mm-hmm. Okay. So he's like, the other thing about making this list of 5 is, we talked about this before we hit record, Matteo. Do you pick a guy like Dane Key, who's had a ton of production at Kentucky, but never played a down at Nebraska yet? Do you pick some of these transfers? We largely stayed away from that, but we do have one guy who will be a true freshman. He's out of the high school ranks, and we went with wide receiver Cortez Mills. Mm-hmm. So he's out of Homestead High School in Florida. This is according to Huskers.com. He's a consensus 4-star across the recruiting services, one of the top 25 wide receivers in the country. He was ranked number 13 by ESPN, number 14 by Rivals as far as wide receivers in the country go. And you just hear a ton of hype about this kid. Everybody's talking about him. I think it was Oklahoma made a late push for him, and the Huskers were able to hold on and keep Cortez Mills in the boat. And so I think it could be, and we know this staff will play young guys. So is he this year's Ja'Cory Barney, right? Yeah. Is he, I think it will be really interesting to see. You've got the top 3, you've got out of the transfer portal, Dane Key, Naziah Hunter. Both of those guys have established production at the FBS level. Then you've got Hardley Gilmore IV, a lot of potential, also from Kentucky. So you got those 3 guys. You've got a bunch of young guys that we're waiting on to kind of pan out. And then Ja'Cory Barney. Yep. And you got Janiron Bonner. I guess he was a contributor last year. Carter Nelson, not so like he got some snaps and he got to play early, but was kind of hit or miss. Ja'Cory Barney is really the only guy that's like established as a Nebraska wide receiver of that group. Yeah. Now you expect a Dane Key to come in and take over a lead role. You expect Naziah Hunter. I think that those 2 guys maybe are your Jamal Banks and
Isaiah
Nair this year. You expect that, but I think there's room in that mix for a true freshman to have a Ja'Cory Barney like year this year. And I think if that happens, I think Cortez Mills is your leading candidate for that.
Yeah, and I don't know much about the kid other than the facts that you just stated. But I think this is like the new thing. If you're going to be a premier college football program, usually those teams like the Ohio States of the world have like a guy like that every year. Like there's a true freshman that's contributing major snaps and catches, carries, whatever it might be. If you're doing anything, your football program's on the right trajectory, you got to have those kind of guys. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this kid because I'm same what you just said. There's a lot of buzz about this Mills kid.
Was he a 4-star? Is that right?
Yeah, 4-star across all recruiting services.
He's from Florida, right?
Yes, Jeff. Did you listen to anything I just said?
Yeah, I'm just making sure he's from Florida. I mean, he's homegrown down in like the SEC's backyard. So I think that somebody like that coming to Nebraska, that's pretty cool. I feel like we could see some potential there. And as a true freshman, you kind of have to be with NIL now. Like, you need to step your game up immediately because, if things don't work out, you can always go somewhere else. So these kids kind of hit the ground running immediately. So yeah, I think he's primed to be that person, kind of like you were saying, TJ, in his true freshman year, to hopefully rack up some receiving yards. I'm excited for him.
Yeah, you guys both touched on it in kind of the new wave, new world, new age, not new wave, new age of college football. 105-man roster limit. Everybody's got options to transfer, like you said, Jeff. You need more of these guys to hit as true freshmen than ever before.
Right.
Like they have more options.
Isn't it 85? I thought it was 85. Is it 80? I thought it was 85.
It's 105. It's 105.
Oh, is it?
85 might be the scholarship limit.
85 scholarships. That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. But 105 roster limit.
Yeah.
Which there used to be 85 scholarship limit, but if you wanted to have 150 guys, you could have 150
And
guys,
we in Nebraska would.
And we did. We were
Always
close to it. Yeah. But you just need, especially at like a wide receiver position. I think a lineman probably comes in understanding he's going to lift and eat for 3 years before he sees the field. But wide receiver, a top-notch 4-star wide receiver ain't hanging around for 3 years if they're not seeing the field.
No,
right?
time to go.
For sure.
And you'll need at least eight guys, able-bodied guys to play. I mean, you just do. Most programs need 8-9 receivers.
Exactly, and we've rarely had that in Nebraska.
No, we're lucky to have two. We're lucky to have two, maybe three.
Yeah. All right. So number 3 on our list of breakout players, or poised to break out. We kind of cheated here. We have 2, but they kind of go together, if you ask me. And I'm really excited about both of these guys. We've talked about both of them before. Defensive linemen Keona Davis and Riley Van Poppel. Okay. Let's just break this down for a minute. Lost a ton of production on the defensive line. Nash, Hutmaker, the Polar Bear, and Ty Robinson both graduated. Jamari Butler, James Williams, both transferred. Prince Will transferred. I know I'm not remembering everybody even. They replenished it. They did a good job of bringing in dudes in the transfer portal. Elijah Judy's back. He was a JUCO. I think he transferred from JUCO a couple of years ago. He was a transfer nonetheless. A couple of years ago.
He was from A&M.
From A&M. Okay, that's good call. Bunch of guys. So there's some more veteran presence there. But we talk a lot about needing to replenish what we lost in the defensive line. And we need to do that in order for the defense not to have a steep fall off in 2025 from where they've been in 2023 and 2024. And I just wrote about this, but like we went from in fact, let me see if I can find it. In total defense, I think I did. Shoot. Okay. I'm not gonna go search for it now. We were like 100th or something in total defense in 2022. And in 23 and 24, since Rule and Tony White arrived, we're top 20 in total defense and scoring defense, both of those years. Right. So there's things that, Husker fans would like to see improve, maybe third down defense, maybe turnovers, maybe sacks. But by and large, we've talked about it many times, the defense suddenly became something that was reliable and something that we could reasonably believe we'll get off the field on third down, or we'll make stops, or we'll get sacks, or whatever. It got so much better under Rule. I think in order for that to continue, or at least avoid a massive fall off, the D line is going to be critical to that. And you need Keona Davis and Riley Van Poppel. I don't want to put it on them yet to say they need to be the new Nash and Ty, but they need to start emerging as anchors of this defense. And I looked this up, guys. I mean, these are both really what you would consider prime suspects for a breakout, right? I mean, Davis he played in 12 games as a true freshman in 2024. He had 10 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, right? But we saw at times, I'm thinking of the USC game where he chased down the guy who made the catch and made the tackle from the defensive line. We saw his elite athleticism on display at times last year, and it's incredible. And then Van Poppel's the one, as you pointed out, Matteo, he played in 11 games as a true freshman in 2023. And then in 2024, he basically used his redshirt season. And the rules keep changing, but I think you can play in 4 games and the bowl game and still keep your redshirt season. And that's what he did. And so he's coming into year 3. So he's been with Rule every step of the way. He's had a couple years in the weight room, a couple years in the program, all that. So I think, Van Poppel is one as well that's really in line for a significant leap in 2025.
Yeah, I agree. So the way I kind of view it is we titled this episode like people that we think are going to have a breakout season, but I think in the regards of the defensive line, it should be changed to the people that we need to have a breakout season type of thing. Because if Nebraska fans, if you've learned anything from us, if you give us something for a little bit and then you take it away, we get a little bit angry. Like, the days of old, we're on the top of the mountain. You took that away. We're pretty upset about it. Now we finally have a defense that we could rely upon. We got used to it. Something that every game you could rely upon them getting us off the field and getting the offense back out there. We regress and you take that away, we're not going to be very happy. We're probably going to be a little bit more impatient again. So I would say in this regard, you're right, TJ. Not only do I think that they're going to take that next step, but I think that they have to, just to keep us on track for where we're trying to go.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited to see what Keona Davis can do with more snaps. We were trying to get a lot of guys snaps last year. You had Butler, who you're going to have on the field for the majority of the game, and then just a lot of other bodies that we had to let them get theirs. Cam Lenhardt and Prince Will and all those guys.
Yeah.
And then you've got Nash and Ty, who you don't really want to leave the field that often. But I think I mentioned this in one of the last couple of pods about Riley Ben Poppel, RVP, as I'm sure we're going to probably be calling him. I can't remember if it was Rule or if it was RVP himself that said something like, he had a meeting with Rule and he said, oh, they were talking about redshirting this last year. And he said, well, why don't you redshirt and then you're Ty next year? Like you're the Ty Robinson.
Yeah, right.
And he bought into it. And I think, like, what a better commercial for Matt Rule and what he's capable of doing with development than Ty Robinson. Like, he convinces him to stick around and stay. And now the guy is going to be probably drafted in the top 3 rounds of the NFL draft. Probably doesn't happen if he doesn't come back. Maybe gets drafted, but it's probably 5th, 6th round, maybe even, undrafted free agent. But what a great commercial for that. And I think RVP could end up being better than one or both of those guys, in my opinion. You hear you hear the term a lot, and John Madden used to say motor. This guy's got a motor. You say it about Grant Wistrom all the time, and I think RVP has a motor. Like the couple plays, a few plays that he's made when he's had time, and it was usually like in a short yarded situation, he would just get low, take on his block, and make a play, and then he was just so jacked. And I loved the energy. It was like reminiscent of those old Husker D linemen, like the Peters, Wistroms, Vanden Bosches, and those guys that would just go out of their mind if they made a play. And I love that. That is contagious stuff to a defense and to the fans. So I'm so damn excited for RVP and for him to get the majority of snaps on the D line. I can't wait for it. I'm the glasses half full guy, like saying, who's to say these guys can't be better than what we had? That's where I'm at.
Love it.
Look at you.
Love that. I would also say we've seen it in what Rule has said publicly, and also like several of our guests just in 2025 have reiterated this point. Rule seems really confident that the defense is not going to drop off. He seems really confident that they're going to plug and play and replace what they lost on the D line and still have a really good D line and a really good defense. And so that has been a hallmark of most of the teams that Matt Rule has coached. And so I'm a optimist as well, like you, Matty O, and we're just going to believe that that's what's going to happen. And we're going to continue to play elite defense.
Look how positive you guys are.
You got to believe,
just
baby.
Don't screw it up.
Believe.
That's right. Yeah, just hold your breath. Somebody make a tackle. On that note, we'll stick with defense for our next player that's poised to break out. I think all Husker fans are going to nod in agreement with this one. Vincent Shavers Jr.
Yeah.
He was like a bullet on the field. He was all over the field last year. He played in all 13 games as a true freshman. He even started 2 games. I feel like was featured a little more prominently. Like, I feel like people who watch the Huskers regularly would be like, didn't he already break out? But I think he's got a whole nother level to find. So he had 25 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, 1 sack, and 1 forced fumble on the season. Pro Football Focus, which people have, varying opinions on how accurate some of their stuff is, but I'll take them as legit. They ranked Shavers as the highest graded true freshman linebacker in the country in 2024. So I'd say they know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And then in the Pinstripe Bowl in particular, I mean, he was all over the field in the Pinstripe Bowl. He had 6 tackles. He had his sack, his 1 sack on the season in the bowl, and 2 tackles for loss, and he forced the fumble in the bowl game as well. So he really went out on a high note. Super excited to see what he can do. And again, linebacker is another area where we lost John Bullock. We lost Mekhi Bayer to the transfer portal. I'm probably missing 1 or 2 other guys, but like we need Shavers. We need a guy like Shavers to step up and probably be ready to start in 2025.
Yeah. I mean, you think about the linebacker position, he might be our best linebacker already. Because I'm trying to think of who I'm drawing a blank on who else we even got. I mean, I think Javen Wright maybe is coming back. He's kind of in there.
Javen Wright's coming back. Willis McGahee, another young guy.
Yeah, he's a young guy. But Shavers, I think I'm really excited about him too. I think he's got a little bit of that like game-changing defensive player thing about him. I think you think about a player like for us, it's like you think about Levante David and guys like that will make a play, make a strip, or make a big sack, or something like that, or a TFL, and can flip the game. I always think about LeVar Arrington. I hate to bring up a Penn State guy, but the guy that would just fly around the field, block a field goal, deflect a pass, just making crazy plays. And I think Shavers kind of has that kind of. I don't know about LeVar Arrington, but he's got some serious potential. And I think we really need that at linebacker too, because like you said, it's kind of that's kind of the position where I'm like, okay, there's a number of guys like, hey, we need some of these other guys to step up too. I'm expecting it from Shavers, but we need some other guys to step up at linebacker, and maybe it's some of the true freshmen there too.
I'm looking at the scholarship distribution chart, but you've got Dason McCullough and Marquez Watson Trent, both senior transfers who you would expect to either start or see the field a ton.
That's
and
right.
Javen Wright is back, right? But then after that, like a bunch of names like Michael Booker III is a senior, Gage Stanger, Vince Genatone are juniors. I'd love to see one of those guys get more time and contribute, but it hasn't exactly, I don't think that's exactly been the case.
Yeah.
And then you get into the sophomores already, which Shavers is part of that group. So I do think Shavers will be in the rotation. And sorry, Jeff, you haven't even talked yet. I didn't mean to jump back in, but the one thing I would say too about Shavers is he strikes me as a guy. Michael Severe and Gary Sharp made the point that this year's unit will be more athletic, and they expect them to make more game-changing plays.
Yeah.
And Shavers fits that bill to me, right?
There you go.
And I don't I would have loved Mekhi Bayer to stay. This is not trashing a guy who played a lot of good football for Nebraska and then decided to transfer. Not at all. But I think that's a perfect example of Shavers probably as a sophomore may already be ahead of where a guy like Mekhi Bayer was, who had a great season in 2024 as a junior last year. And I think Shavers is just more explosive, more athletic, and has the capability of making more game-changing plays.
I would completely agree with that assessment, sir.
With you guys always saying like I enjoy the Hollywood side of football. Like to
you
me,
say that. We don't say that.
You say that.
You're the only one.
Yeah, you're right. No, you guys agree with me all the time. You say that too.
Yes, you're Hollywood, Jeff. That's what everyone thinks of. Yeah.
I should be wearing sunglasses right now for every podcast going forward. To me,
like a feather boa around your neck.
I'm going to next time. Mark my words. I'm wearing sunglasses at bare minimum.
Please do.
To me, the linebacker position, in my opinion, is like the most Hollywood position on the defensive side of the ball. Like it's the people, in my opinion, that stick out to me the most. Like after people leave Nebraska, they go on and do their thing in the NFL. I usually forget about them, but like people like Randy Gregory, I still remember who that is. Just the linebacker position, for whatever reason, sticks out to me. And so I would love for us to have somebody back there that's just a beast, a monster that stands out, that you're always going to remember their name, because I feel like with like defensive linemen, and maybe for you, Owens, because you were down there in the trenches, actually on the line, you know what it's like to play, and you remember these types of people. For me, they kind of just get lost in the middle there for me. I just need people to jump out and stand out to me.
You.
I feel like you do your job. You do what you're supposed to do, right?
Hey, Jeff.
The linebacker, I know who they are. So Vincent Shavers, I want him to deliver and be that guy that I remember that dude. That dude's a freaking beast, and he ripped it up on the field week to week when he played for Nebraska. What, Owens? Go ahead, say something.
Do you know how a lot of those linebackers are able to run free and make those tackles?
Sure,
it's because
I
of
get
those.
it.
It's because of those D linemen.
It wasn't an attack. All right, it wasn't an attack. I just can't help it that the linebackers get a lot of the praise in a lot of these situations.
Sure, just like the running backs and quarterbacks
around.
And receivers, the real hog mollies up front are the ones helping. Yeah,
Hollywood, Matt. Where's somebody give me my sunglasses?
Louise, Jeff.
So yeah, I want him to step up. I want him to be that guy because I love those dudes. Don't you remember the program? What's his name? Latimer. I think that's where like the idea of a badass linebacker came back.
Latimer was a lineman. He was a D.
He was a lineman. Are you sure?
Yeah. Jeff, Randy Gregory was also
Alvin Mack was the linebacker.
That's right. Yep, Mack. Yep, you're right. Yeah, but he was a badass too.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, he's
Randy
awesome.
Gregory's a defensive end, which is a defensive lineman, Jeff. But that's fine. I'm glad you remembered him.
Yeah. He's a lineman.
Hey, your point is still a good point. You just want the linebackers to make plays. Yeah, and be memorable. You want them to be memorable.
I will say, if you're an interior defensive lineman, that's different. I feel like people like Trev Alberts when he won the Butkus Award. I can't believe I just brought that up. Trevor Kendall Alberts when he won the Butkus Award he was really a defensive lineman. He was a defensive end.
He really was a Russian.
Won the award for the best linebacker.
He should give it back.
Yeah,
he should give it back. He wasn't really a linebacker.
Yeah, I know what I'm talking
exactly
about.
Right. Exactly.
Take that.
No, we'll remember Trev the player fondly. It's Trevor Kendall Roberts or Trevor Kendall Alberts, the athletic director. That he what would we call him? He who shall not be named.
That's right. Yeah.
Listen, Troy Danon's doing a great job. We're moving forward.
Yeah,
we're moving forward with
TD
athletic
baby
director Troy Danon. That's right.
Did A&M lose? They lost, didn't they? In the tourney.
They did lose to Michigan.
Good.
Yes, we can all damn well hope so.
Yeah. A little feather in the cap for Trev with UNO making it to the tournament. He acts to pissed a lot of people off in Omaha. Acts in the he cut wrestling and football to go D1 in basketball.
I know wrestling for sure. Yep.
Yeah. I don't know. We're moving forward.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Onward and upward, baby. To the moon.
Okay, so our number 5, and it's actually number 6 since we had 2 for one of them, but our number 5 player poised to break out. I'm super excited about this one, guys.
Of course you are.
Heinrich Haarberg.
Give him a series. Give him a series.
Give him a series. And I don't mean the occasional series at quarterback, even though I would still be fully on board with that. I felt like it made a ton of sense in 2024 when the offense started struggling. I felt like they should have just mixed him in, let him run a little option, let him use his legs, and move the ball down the field when the offense was stalling. Didn't mean Dylan wasn't the guy. I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole. But I talked about it a lot in 2024. I still feel like it would have made sense for them to do it more than they did. But he's making the full-time switch to tight end. It's just a testament to what a tremendous athlete he is.
Yeah.
That he was the backup quarterback all season. And then when Fedoni decides to go to the NFL and not play in the bowl game, Haarberg started the bowl game at tight end.
Yeah.
So you have to be pretty smart to be able to execute a position change like that. But you also have to be a really good athlete. Those are not like two positions. It's not like a tight end converted to wide receiver or vice versa, or like Janiron Bonner's like a fullback that they kind of use as an H-back tight end as well. You don't see a lot of like switching from quarterback to tight end or vice versa that late in your career, basically at the end of your junior year of college. And he was able to do it flawlessly and seamlessly. And I think he's going to be the guy or one of the guys at tight end this year. And so I'm just really excited for him to have a full off season to devote to learning this position and then to be able to fully utilize his athleticism. He was like, if we wanted to run an old school option offense, then he was probably going to be a starting quarterback, but otherwise he was never going to start at quarterback. But he's too good of an athlete. I think, his father was a college football player and his mother was an Olympian or something.
Yeah.
So like, he's just this phenomenal athlete that we're finally going to be able to put on the field and utilize to a full extent.
I think it's fun just because of he's a Nebraska boy, right? He's from Kearney, isn't he?
Kearney.
Yep.
Just a
Kearney
fun
Catholic.
story. You like to see those dudes that come here and stay in state do well. And so, damn it, I'm rooting for him.
And guys, stick around too. Like he could have
gone
had
anywhere.
plenty of reasons he could have left.
Yeah. And so he just seems like a genuinely good guy too. Sticks around, does the job he's asked of, nothing more, nothing less. And yeah, like you said, TJ's a phenomenal athlete. So I'm rooting for him. It's a good story, and he just seems like a really cool dude. So I'm rooting for you.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, and we've seen what he can do with the ball in his hands. I mean, running the ball, right?
Yeah.
He threw a couple of deep balls, but we've seen what he can do passing the ball, and it wasn't great. Let's just be honest here. But tremendous. We've detailed it at length on this program, the respect we have for Heinrich Haarberg, aka William Wallace. I love it. I love that he's moving to tight end. If we can figure out scheme ways to get him the ball, I'm all for it. I think it's brilliant.
Well, and Owens, you talk about, that's a great point about how well he moves and how fast he is. Most tight ends are not that athletic.
Right.
They might have the size, they might have the speed, they might have the hands, they might be really good blockers, but usually they don't have it all like that. Now, I don't know how good of a blocker he is, but I think he's did the job, right? And he's got everything else, right? And so I just think it's exciting to think about him.
I mean, we're talking about a guy that came in as a quarterback, now moving to tight end, and has also competed in the football team's dunk contest. That's what kind of athlete we're talking about. You just don't hear about guys like that very often.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we are killing it in the nickname department, by the way. We've got William Wallace, we've got Emmett Brown, RVP. We need to keep this up. These things need to catch on to the general public. For all you listeners out there,
well,
I know we have a lot of them now. We have over 1,000 at least.
Now, I don't know. We can't take credit for RVP. I mean, that's just the man's initials.
It sounds cool. It sounds cool.
It does.
Well, that's it. For long time Common Fan listeners know that we started referring to Heinrich Haarberg as William Wallace, the great warrior, in 2023 when he was Jeff Sims was hurt. Haarberg was kind of forced into duty as a starting quarterback. He was just getting beat up. He was running the ball a ton, and he just freaking battled. So that's why we call him William Wallace.
Yeah.
Anyway,
RVP makes me think of regional vice president. So maybe we shorten it to Prez or something like that. I don't know.
We'll
assistant to the regional manager.
Yeah. Yes.
You guys, okay. So do you guys have time for maybe one or two honorable mentions?
Yeah.
We got through our list.
I think we should.
Okay.
Let's
do
going.
it. Let's do it. I'm going to throw one out there. We haven't talked about any offensive linemen yet. So I'm going to throw one out there. Grant Brix. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about this before, so I'm going to talk through it quickly. But basically, you've got two transfers who are likely going to start. Rocco Spindler, from Notre Dame, and Elijah Pritchett from Alabama. Okay. Rocco's a senior, Elijah's a junior. Then you've got Henry Lutovsky and Justin Evans, both interior linemen who have played a ton of football, both likely starters as well. Then you've got Turner Corcoran and Teddy Prohaska, who have been around forever, are both seniors, have both also played a ton of football. They both battled multiple injuries, so we're not sure where they come down. And then you got Gunnar Gatula, who started at left tackle. He is only a sophomore.
Yeah.
And so I feel but then you've got this group of a ton of guys that Rule brought in his first and second classes. I won't expect any true freshman to start at offensive line. That's probably a little much. But so I'd love to see any of these guys flash. Let me be clear: Brock Knudsen, Sam Sledge, Jason Mashijak, I can't pronounce his last name. Gibson Pyle, Preston Tamu. There's a ton of guys.
A lot of bodies.
Right? Yeah, a lot of bodies, and we'd be thrilled with any of them breaking out. But I think the most likely candidate is Grant Brix. He was one of the top recruits out of the state of Iowa. He redshirted in 2024, but out of high school, he was one of the top offensive linemen in the nation. I'm excited to see what he can do and where he can contribute. And also we've seen he's an interior offensive lineman. I believe that's where they've got him. And you've already got Pritchett, Gatula, Prohaska, Corcoran all are tackles. And so maybe one of the younger tackles can break through, but I think Brix is more likely to at least be in the rotation.
Yeah, and I think he's gonna get the chance, right? Um, I love that we have so many guys in the
Got
offensive line.
options.
It's not an issue of like, oh God, like, who's gonna fill in here? We've got multiple guys that can fill in those interior spots. Well, I guess Rocco will be one of those interior, and then we're assuming, right? You just said Pritchard will probably be one of the tackles. So I love that we've got options, because there's been some years where it's like there weren't this many options.
Yeah.
And we've seen with Corcoran and Prohaska, we've had a lot of injury history on the O line the last several years. So another great reason to have, we want to have depth,
Yeah.
and we got to have guys ready to play. And the way they've stockpiled offensive linemen, I think it's awesome. I think it's brilliant. And it wasn't Brix. Was Grant Brix the kid that we parked the Nebraska equipment trailer outside his high school or something like that? Wasn't that this kid outside Iowa? I think
Oh,
we did.
maybe, man. I'm drawing a blank there,
I
but
think we
maybe.
did, but and I don't know much about him other than I love that a guy that is from Iowa decided to see the light
Yeah.
and
Right.
and head
Convert.
west and head
Yes.
west to brighter, greener pastures, to
Better
where
corn, better
to
corn,
better
Yeah.
corn and better
Air
and
quality's
just
better.
better better stadium,
better
Is it
people.
better
is it light where they're
people.
at right now? Is it still dark there? I'm just
I don't know,
curious. It's just
probably. I
air
don't know if the
quality's
sun
better.
shines in Iowa. Does the sun
What?
shine in Iowa?
I don't think so. Those damn windmills. God, I hate those windmills. Get those things
Stupid
out.
windmill.
Turbines, Jeff.
I don't even know what time it is in Iowa right now. All right. Let's do one more because we mentioned his counterpart. We'll say Willis McGahee IV, and we mentioned him
Yeah.
earlier. Another young linebacker who played in all 12 games as a true freshman, 13 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, 1 sack, and 1 pass breakup. Career high, another guy who flashed in the Pinstripe Bowl, career high 4 tackles in the Pinstripe Bowl. And so he's another guy right along with Shavers, and obviously he comes from his father's Willis McGahee, so he comes from serious football pedigree.
Hmm.
Great athlete. And he's another one of those guys that we got a couple transfers plus Javen Wright, who you figure are your top 3 in your rotation at linebacker, but we absolutely need Shavers and McGahee and maybe a true freshman or two to be regulars in the rotation. And so I think what we saw from Shavers and McGahee last year gives a lot of hope for what they can do this year as well.
I was going to ask, do you think that the substitutions or the amount of snaps divvied up will remain similar with John Butler as DC? Do you think that was a Tony White thing, or is that a Matt Rule thing that's, play a ton of guys and kind of spread it out? What do we think?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I like it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you
Mm-hmm.
saw guys like Cam Lenhardt and Prince will be freshman All-Americans because they got the chance to play when they were true freshmen. And I think it helps now when you lose a bunch of guys to the transfer portal. You have other guys who have played, they've seen the live bullets, they've played a ton of snaps. So I hope they keep doing it, but I also think if a guy's not ready, he's not ready. So we'll just have to see where things come down and who's ready to get out there. Is Dawson Merritt ready to play right away? Is Christian Jones ready to play right away? So we'll just kind of have to see.
Yeah.
But the other thing I would say, and let's be clear, we are not taking anything for granted. Nebraska football is not in a position to take any game for granted, but our non-conference schedule is really weak.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe Cincinnati was okay last year. They lost a bunch of close games. They had a losing record, but they're still, in that transition from, to Big 12 to the power conferences. And so maybe Cincinnati would be tough, but our other two are really weak. So you have to assume that's an opportunity for a ton of guys to get on the field, see who can do what, and see who can help you in Big 10 play.
Yeah. And I think Michigan's the first Big 10 game at home, I think. And you don't. So the other thing is you don't want to get starters hurt playing in
exactly.
that non-con schedule. So yeah, it's going to be fun, guys.
Wow.
Good times.
It really is. Geoff, anything on McGahee?
Well, he's a linebacker, so it's Hollywood, right? Right. So
I don't know, Jeff. Is it?
I don't know about that, Jeff. That might just
I think
be
I
a
can't believe you don't
Jeffism.
agree with that.
I think you
I think
jeffed
that's
up with
cool.
that one.
No, I did not
You
jeff up. I
you
did not
jeffed it
jeff
up.
up. Did not jeff up.
I
Jeff you.
I consider the defensive backs Jeff you. Go Jeff yourself.
Oh my gosh.
I think DBs are more
Oh,
Hollywood,
Lord.
but you do you, Jeff.
No, come on. Wasn't Brian Bosworth
Deion
a
Sanders,
linebacker?
prime time.
Wasn't
This is
Brian
the most
Bosworth a linebacker?
Hollywood defensive player of all time was Deion Sanders, the defensive back.
Oh, whatever. I'm serious. Wasn't Brian Bosworth a linebacker? The linebacker?
Yes.
Yeah,
he was a
Boz
linebacker.
was.
Oh, that's Hollywood.
He
Come
was-
on. He just looked like a star. Come on. He's like a pro wrestler.
He was a punk.
He was.
He was also on
Two other
steroids.
guys.
Yeah.
Two other guys real
A lot
quick
of
I had on
guys
the
were. A
honorable.
lot of guys were back then, Jeff.
Yeah, a lot of guys were. Two other guys I had on the honorable mention list really quick. Hardley Gilmore IV. Brian Christopherson in particular highlighted him as a guy that they're really excited about. Super young, tons of potential, has 3 years of eligibility left, transferred from Kentucky. Really excited to see what he can do at the wide receiver spot. And then Cam Lenhardt was, as I mentioned, he's a defensive lineman. He was a freshman All-American.
A little bit quieter year last year.
2023, yeah, a little bit quieter year. In 2024, there were a lot of guys who had to eat in 2024, as you pointed out, Matty O. Can he have a resurgence?
I like the way you put that. A lot of guys had to eat.
Well, and also, like, do you call it a breakout if he busts out in 2025? Is that a breakout because he was a freshman All-American in 2023? But would love to see him sort of reach the potential that I think we all think is there.
Yes.
Yeah. So good episode, good discussion, guys.
Hey, yeah. Look at us.
Let's do it. Let's go.
Gilmore fella, we're definitely gonna have to call him Happy, right? Like that's another nickname that we can throw out there. I'm all about the nicknames, guys.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
Well, it's Hardley Gilmore, so it's close.
Yeah,
it's close to Happy.
exactly.
Happy
Well,
Gilmore.
Happy.
Happy Gilmore 2 is coming out. So
It is.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
I'll give it a whirl. I don't have high hopes for it, but I'll give it a whirl.
It sounds like we could almost do an offshoot movie pod, guys. I don't know.
Yeah, well, because we all have a ton of free time. We should definitely do that.
Yeah, we have tons of free time.
Well, it's not going to be as good as the original, but there'll probably be a few laugh out loud moments.
Yes.
Come on.
Yes.
More than likely,
Right.
yes.
Yeah.
Looks like there's a lot of pro golfers in this one too, which
that's fun.
I think that'll be entertaining.
All right, Common fans. Spring ball starts this week, so we're going to have a ton of great guests throughout the course of spring ball. We get to the other end of spring ball, guys. We're past Easter. We're pretty much through April. And then you've only got May, June, and July until fall camp.
And those go by fast.
Really
They
getting
do.
there. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. So we're getting there. We made it through the doldrums of January and February. We've made it to spring ball, and it's only up from here. The Common fans will be here to carry you through all the way through.
Yep.
We've got broad shoulders.
Yeah,
That's
the weather,
exactly right.
the
Yes.
weather's starting to get nicer. It's starting to turn. I think we got the last of the snow out of the way. Knock on wood. Things are looking
Why
up.
would you say that, Jeff?
Yeah, I don't know why you said that, Jeff.
Because guess what? Listen to this. I got a snow blower. I almost want it to snow again. I want it to snow. Come on, snow, bring it on.
Common fans, this has been years in the making of Jeff scooping his snow.
I wouldn't bend.
Who is the George Costanza of the group, the cheapest by far.
Yeah, I
of the
wouldn't
group.
bend. I just
Absolutely.
was
Did you get find was there a big deal or something like that?
No, I bought it from a coworker.
Well, that sounds about right. But also, instead of even shoveling, Jeff would just drink martinis and convince his neighbor to snow blow his own driveway.
That's not true.
But his neighbor moved. Your neighbor moved.
The snowblower moved. Yeah.
Did your neighbor with the snowblower move?
Erroneous.
Yes or no?
Erroneous. He didn't. Yes, he moved. Yes, he moved.
Yeah. That much we know. That much we've established. So Jeff will deny drinking martinis, watching his neighbor snow blow his driveway, but we all know it happened.
Yeah.
Erroneous.
All right, happy spring ball week. Happy March Madness.
Yes.
Hopefully your brackets are all doing well. Like I said, we'll be back at you with a bunch of guests soon. We'll be back. We'll have a ton of spring ball coverage, and that'll carry us right into the almost summer months. So lots to be excited about, Common fans. In the meantime, as always, GBR for life.